And starting the webinar now. Hello and welcome to Neuro Challenge Foundation for Parkinson's disease. We are so happy that you're here with us today. We're going to give everybody just a minute to log in and come in from the waiting room. So grab your seat and get ready because we have a fantastic presentation for you today by Wendy Rickenbach. She's a certified aging in place specialist, and her company is Hometown Senior Care Solutions. Her topic today is going to be, how soon should I look for care? And this is such an important topic for everybody in the Parkinson's community, because at some point we do know that we are going to need more care. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about Neuro Challenge in case you are tuning in from somewhere else. Neuro Challenge is a nonprofit organization that serves the Southwest region of Florida. We do service 6 counties in person. But since the pandemic, we really pivoted and we were able to reach people all over the nation and outside of the country, in several different countries. So we went virtual and did a lot of programs, and we have a lot of things to offer on our program calendar. So please go check that out if you are new to us. And we're just so happy that you're here. Now, I'm going to introduce Wendy. We have had the pleasure of knowing Wendy for many years. She has been a super supporter of Neuro Challenge and the Parkinson's community. So without further ado, let me read a little bit about Wendy. Wendy is an industry leader and a renowned expert when it comes to partnering with aging adults and their families. She's the owner of Hometown Senior Care Solutions. She's also been serving Manatee and Sarasota counties for nearly 11 years. She's nationally recognized as a thought leader and was dubbed by the media as an industry disruptor with an adult day center concept that she brought to Sarasota and surrounding communities. She is certified as part of the Neuro Challenge Network, which means she's spent dedicated time learning and understanding the needs of those with Parkinson's disease. She's also a certified aging and place specialist, CAPS, helping families to stay as independent as possible for as long and safely as possible. Additionally, she holds so many other industry designations and certifications like certified dementia trainer, certified dementia practitioner. She's certified Montessori dementia care professional, and more. She's served on the board at the Venice Yacht Club and the Sarasota County Aging Network. She's chaired the Venice Chamber Senior Resource Group and volunteers at many local nonprofits such as Neuro Challenge Foundation, Friendship Centers, Parkinson's Place, Alzheimer's Association, Manatee County Aging Network, and more. Yay! Without further ado, here is Wendy.
Hi, guys. Thanks for joining us this afternoon. So just a couple of things I just want to highlight for this call before we get started is that thank you, by the way, you guys, for having me on the webinar. I super appreciate it. And yeah, it always feels weird when other people talk about all the stuff you've done, because I just like to do stuff and learn and be a student of everything that I do. And I want to keep learning every day. But one of the things that I did starting this summer is I went back and I became a senior safety specialist. And what that does, it allows me to go in people's homes. It costs about $99, so it's super economical, but I spend about 2 hours in the home learning about your goals and objectives, and then come up with a game plan so that you have a step-by-step roadmap on this journey, not only to be safe at home, but what safety looks like. And I make some recommendations. And some of those recommendations will be things that you guys can do on your own. Others might require a renovate or remodel scenario as well. And that might not be something you need immediately, but something to be planting the seeds and thinking about. There again, it's all about keeping people in their homes as long as possible and as safely as possible. And I happen to be the only one in our area in 2.5 counties that I know of. I probably should search the whole state that actually has these designations. So without further ado, I would love to dig in and really start talking about how soon you guys should be looking for care, and some of the things you need to do proactively to be prepared when you do need the care. All right, so let's dig in if that's okay. All right, this is just my bio. It'll be out here. I put it out here so that if folks go back and watch this after the fact, that they know a little bit about my background. So why prepare for care? Well, here's what, if I'm sitting with you, I kind of put some of the common things that I hear from people, right? What are literally when and by the way, the company that I own prior to this, I've been doing this, like April said, for about 11 years. And we've probably worked with close to over 10,000 families at this point in our local community between the two counties. So that's a lot of families that we've had the privilege of sitting down one-on-one, talking with them, meeting with them. So I'd like to think that I have a little bit of insight as to some of the things that we hear. So basically the things that I hear, here's my objections: never going to need it, period, end of sentence. We're never going to need, I can do it all, right? That's normally coming from the caregiver. Or the person that is impacted by the Parkinson's or anything else they may be impacted by, they're like, no, we've got this. She's doing great, or he's doing great. We're not going to need any of that. We don't need it. We don't need it. They're even using hand gestures like this. We don't need it. And they're going to stay in their house no matter what. I also hear a lot that I promised my loved one I would never put them in one of those places. Y'all know what I'm referring to. We're not ready yet. We're just not ready. We're just not there yet. And then I can take care of my loved one, right? I can do it all. Doesn't matter that I'm 70 or 80 or even 90, I can do it all. The other thing when we talk about in-home care, well, I really just don't want people in my house. I don't want people coming and touching my stuff, or they're going to steal my stuff, right? But at the end of the day, you don't want people in your house. All right, so we're going to talk about that. And then, we're still doing all the things we used to do. We're still traveling. We're still snowbirds. We're still doing this. We're doing that. And there's a lot of limitations and things that are going to happen. So I'm probably going to touch base a little bit on that and how that, there again, it's all about making decisions today, right, that will help you on your journey, not only of Parkinson's, but guess what? Aging. Right? They kind of go hand in hand. None of us are getting any younger. So we're aging, and then your loved one with Parkinson's, or if you are the person with Parkinson's, we all know that disease is going to progress. Now, we don't know how much or how quickly, but we do know it's going to progress. So between getting older and a progressive disease, we know things are going to progress. So I think we can all agree with that on this call today. So thinking about those things. So I know your objections. I'm sure you have a lot more. If we were sitting together one-on-one, I'm sure you could come up with them. I will share with you before we move on. I will try to be as gentle as possible, but I'm not a person who fluffs a lot, meaning I'm not going to stroke that's just not my MO, and I'm sorry in advance. So I want to apologize before we go on. I like to be direct and very transparent and really be able to have hard conversations with people. So your perspective, just so you know before we get started, your perspective of your situation may not look the same for someone with fresh eyes who doesn't know anything about you. And I say that because when I walk in on situations, I may see something totally different than maybe what you're seeing, or maybe what you see it, but maybe you don't want to believe it, right? Or you don't want to acknowledge it. And because once we acknowledge it, then we have to do something usually about it, right? Just the way it is. So just know I'm going to try to be as gentle as possible, and I hope I don't offend anyone. But if I do, just know I'm really, really sorry. And that's not my goal, because I would never want to knowingly do that. All right. So moving on. All right. So when do you need to prepare? Number one answer: before you need it, right? Just absolutely before you need it. So how are we going to know when you need it, right? That's a big question. So the other reason that we want to start preparing early before you need it is that some of the funding strategies that we may have to tap into have 3 to 5 year look backs. Now, remember, your money has to last. If you're a couple, your money has to last for both of you. We've got to get you both to the finish line and hopefully keep you both as independent as possible, as long as possible. First off, I love our Parkinson's community because you all have the biggest hearts of anybody I've ever met. Like, you are doers, you are make stuff happen, you are super smart, you're educated, you research the disease so that you better understand it. Like, I have never seen a community for really any other disease out there where people just, you guys are like sponges. You want to learn everything. So I love it. So just know today's exercise is about all planting seeds. Okay. We're going to talk about quite a few things and why you need to do it. So then here's the other thing. So what's great is a lot of time is if you start asking, do you think I should get someone to help out? Do you think maybe we should talk to somebody? I will say 99% of the time, not every time. So I'm gonna leave that little margin, right? But 99% of the time, if you're starting to ask that question, you probably needed help a year or two ago, just so you know. Just being completely honest, because when the caregiver starts recognizing, I'm getting tired, and it's not that you don't want to do it or that you're not capable of doing it, because you are. It's just we need balance. We need healthy balance for both of you. And balance is going to look different for every single person. So there's no cookie cutter, oh, here's your balance. It's going to be different for a multitude of reasons. So just know, if you're even asking the question or it's up there somewhere in your brain, we need to be doing it now. We need to get our game plan in place. Plan A is, you got it. Plan B is, we need to start tiptoeing into this water and start getting a comfortability with what that needs to look like. All right. So before you need it, funding strategies 3 to 5 years out. So I want you guys to also think about this disease and where you were 3 to 5 years ago, right? Let's just go back in your brain 3 to 5 years ago, right? So the disease maybe wasn't as progressed and you were a little younger. Maybe you had 2 homes, you've downsized to 1. Maybe some of you still have 2 homes, right? So things looked different 3 to 5 years ago. Guess what? 3 to 5 years from today, they're going to look even more different, good, bad, right, or wrong. So that's why it's imperative to be having the conversations. And we're going to talk about a little bit more of that as we continue to progress here. Okay. I want to highlight some of the care options that you have. Now, you may be familiar with all of these. Maybe you have some misnomers. So we've got in-home care, private duty. Sometimes I hear people call this home health. Even the companies themselves call them home health companies. So from a terminology perspective, just so we are all speaking the same language, when I refer to home health, that is a Medicare benefit. It's going to be PT, OT, speech, a nursing service, something that is prescribed by a physician that you are receiving a Medicare, Medicaid home health service, okay? In-home care, private duty, when I say in-home care, and I try to use that so that you guys know which one I'm talking about, in-home care, private duty, private pay. Okay, so that's an easy way to kind of remember it. Now, there are some insurance plans that are actually starting to pay for some private duty in the homes. I will tell you, everybody's got their own feelings on it. There's those advantage plans. And if I've got somebody that has an advantage plan or somebody that represents an advantage plan, I'm sorry in advance, but people with a progressive disease should 100% be on insurance that is going to cover their needs. And that includes physical therapy, occupational therapy, and having the opportunity for unlimited physical therapy options, meaning that you're going to get 2 or 3 sessions every single week for the rest of your life. And that if something happens to you on top of that and you need to go to rehab facility and inpatient rehab, that you have the ability to do that. And you have the ability not to go to any inpatient, but you could go to any of them that you need to go to, whether it's an acute care rehab or a skilled nursing rehab. So that's very, very important on the home health side, that when you guys are talking with your insurance providers, that you're getting something that's going to meet your need. And it's not going to just meet your need right now today, but long-term should things start to transpire and escalate. We're going to spend a little time today talking about continuing care retirement communities. I've been meeting with several families specifically within the Parkinson's community, and I know I've had some conversations with some of the leadership there at Parkinson's Place so that everybody can better understand how these communities work and kind of the realities of that environment. Good, bad, right, or wrong, I'm not judging. I think they all have their place, but we're going to talk a little bit about that. I'm going to talk about independent living real briefly, because I like to call the type of independent living I'm talking about is not independent living in your home or an apartment. It's going to be in a community-based environment that has some on-site services to help support you, so that you can be more independent and so that we can take that caregiving burden off of the well spouse. Assisted living, what are some triggers that we might start looking at assisted living? And then memory care, what are some triggers for that? And then at the last stop on the train is always a nursing home. So I kind of like to do it in this order because it really walks us through the options and kind of like how to pair. And, sometimes we got to mix and match different things. Maybe we're independent living with some private duty, or maybe we're even in an assisted living and we tap into some private duty. There's a lot of different things that combos, and this is on top of things. This does not negate your need for all the other things that you guys do, like your PT, your OT, your big and loud, your rock steady, and all these other fun things that you guys do to really keep using your muscles and to stay as active as possible, as long as possible. These are things that we're going to do to support the day-to-day living circumstances. But there again, the focus is keeping you independent as long as possible, but also safe. So we have to have both, because there's a difference between just being independent and being independent and safe, right? Okay. Next slide. So let's talk about this. So I'm going to dig in. How does private duty work? So in our area, and by the way, I'm just going to give generalizations because, there's 126 companies. Okay, let's just start there. And that's give or take 2 companies on any given day. So if you were to go online and count them all, please don't hold me as, oh, Wendy, it was 127. Give me a couple variances on either side. But on any given day, it's about 126 different companies serving our community. So how do you pick one? What are the differences? Who does really well with training and transferring and working with individuals who may have mobility issues, right? Like, and what kind of training have the caregivers went through? So these are all things that I think are really important. But as a general rule of thumb, the majority of our companies here locally, they like 4-hour minimums. And the reason they want that is because they need to make a nice shift for the caregiver. All right, and I'm not saying they won't come to your house for an hour. They will, but for a premium. So the average cost of private duty care in our area right now is roughly between $35 and $45 an hour. $35 and $45 an hour with a 4-hour minimum. The difference in that sliding scale is going to be which company, the amount of training somebody's received. Are you getting a companion person, or are you getting a certified nursing assistant, right? So those all play into that hourly rate that they request. And then the other thing in our community is we have this thing called agencies and registries. The difference, just for layman's terms, is one group is a W-2 employee, the other group is a 1099 contracted associate. Now, I'm not here to pick on anybody or any company, because we need them all. But I do want to let you know that, you guys are going to have a responsibility if you choose to go with a company where they cannot provide you with proof that that person is licensed and insured. They work under a collaboration agreement. And by the way, I can argue this anyway. Like, trust me, if I'm a salesperson, I can argue either way. So my job is not to do that. My job is to educate you so that you know the right questions to ask, so that you feel empowered, and then you can make an informed decision when you retain somebody to work with you. So wanting people who've been properly trained to transfer people. I mean, I think it's imperative. We're dealing with a disease that that is known to have mobility. Folks have mobility issues. So getting in and out of chairs, getting up and down from a table, getting in and out of bed, on and off a toilet. These are things where you're going to want a certified nursing assistant that can help properly transfer and who's been trained to properly transfer someone. Now, that may sound silly to say, but if I go down to the community college here in town where they actually are training CNAs, they don't train them how to transfer people. They teach them nursing things, which is great. We need that. But we just need to make sure that those skills are being expanded upon, because it's going to be imperative that you have somebody who can safely help transfer your loved one. So the difference between a home health aide, by the way, and a certified nursing assistant, one does not do hands-on care. A certified nursing assistant does do hands-on care, right? So if somebody needs somebody to physically, I'm not talking a little elbow assist up. I'm talking if somebody needs help making sure they're up, they're steady, or even walking with them. If somebody needs help bathing, like where they need hands, not just somebody kind of directing and saying, here's your washcloth and this, but touching them. All of those things require a CNA. That's the law. That's not Wendy picking. That's just what the law states. Do I know companies that maybe skirt that a little? Sure. But I'm telling you guys what the law says. That way you, there again, are empowered to make informed choices. Okay, so that kind of gives you the gist. And just so you know, I always like to write this down. So if anybody's taking notes, okay, so this is really important. Once you start paying for 4 hours a day in your home, all right, so I'm going to do a little math. Let me see, I got a little calculator. I'm like, let's see, I got a calculator. All right, I should know this. And I'm just going to do $38 an hour for the sake, I didn't go the highest, because I said it's 35 to 45. I'm just going to choose $38 an hour times 4 hours a day is $152 a day. And we're going to multiply that by 30 days in a month just to get, and that puts you up to $4,560 a month. That is just for someone to come to the home 4 hours a day. All right, so you can start doing the math pretty quickly on how that's going to add up. Now, the average cost of assisted living in a private apartment with a moderate level of care here in our community is somewhere around $4,800 to $5,800 a month. So you can kind of see if you're getting about 4 hours at home, that's really close to getting 24/7 support without somebody being in a home setting at an assisted living. Just throwing that out there because I'm a numbers person. So I like for people to, sometimes when we write it down and we talk about it, it just helps us to put some context around that. Now, the one thing I see here I missed putting on here is, before I move on to continuing care, adult day programs. Our community, there again, not only do we have a ton of resources here in our community for people with Parkinson's, but one of the things our community, being Sarasota County, has really embraced is adult day programs. The Friendship Center, if you guys don't know, I like trivia. So if you guys, I don't know if Brady would be trivia, but if you're sitting around doing trivia, they actually had one of the first adult day programs in the country. So, and they're based right here in our backyard. Since then, we've had 2 other concepts come to town, Town Square and Active Age. And so I am big fans of these programs because not only are they more economical than hiring a one-on-one caregiver, but it also provides your loved one with nursing services, socialization, engagement, and a sense of community where they can still have purpose and get up every day and go somewhere and do something purposeful and meaningful versus maybe sitting in front of the television. So I just throw that out there. They're very active. They all do fitness all day, a lot of music. They do a lot of the programs that you guys are doing here through the park and through Neuro Challenge. They are doing some of those same programs at those facilities. So most of them even have like a lot of the physical therapy companies that you guys use coming in there. So it can be like a one-stop shop. So there's just a lot happening at those adult day centers. And we have quite a few now just kind of spread out geographically around town. So we've got one kind of what I'm calling off a university, and April may have to jump in. It's off a university. I can't think of the crossroads up by the Detweilers at Lockwood Ridge. Like in the University Lockwood Ridge area, there's one in Palmer Ranch. There's one on Bee Ridge, what I'm going to call Midtown. And then we've got downtown with Friendship Center. And then down in Venice, we've got another Friendship Center. So we're starting. And then there's Daybreak, which is, I think Daybreak opened back up in Lakewood Ranch. So, we've got these adult day centers that are kind of strategically placed. And I would almost think that we're going to have more as time continues, because it's a really great way to go in and just leverage the caregiving staff, but also create engagement and socialization for folks. Okay, where I want to spend a few minutes at today, and I know that I talk fast, but we got a lot of material to cover, gang. We got a lot of material to cover. Continuing care retirement communities. I want to talk about this for a minute. You hear them referred to in our area as buy-in communities. And really what you're buying is the right to live on their campus. So I'm going to do generalizations because we have quite a few and they all work a little different, but they also have a lot of similarities. So I'm kind of going to give you the gist of how they work and why this may not be an option for you at this stage. So the first thing is, think of it like a country club. It is a social model. And what they do is you buy in for the right to live on campus. And the amount you pay is usually based on the size of condo unit that you're interested in. So is it a 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, corner unit? Is it got a view of the bay, kind of? So that's how they kind of decide what amount you pay up front. And then that amount that you pay, it's pretty pricey. I think we've got a couple of communities that start around $250,000 And then you're still going to pay your monthly amount based upon the unit that you chose. So that might be $5 or $6 grand a month. But it's complete. It's a lifestyle, like just like a country club is a lifestyle type of thing. So we also have some that go all the way up to $1.5 million to buy in, right? So we've got everything from about 250,000 up to $1.5 million to buy in. All right, because they are lifestyle environments. Well, let me back up. You may get all of that money back. Most of them have where you get no money back. So you buy in, you pay an amount. I'm just going to give an example. Well, you may get no money back. Some of them are like if you pay a premium, we'll give you 50% of your money back. We've still got a couple that if you pay a premium on a premium, you'll get 75% back. And if you pay a premium on a premium on a premium, you'll get 90% of that money back to your estate when you pass. Now, these campuses are designed that you can age in place, meaning you go in independent. And then when you need assisted living or memory care or skilled nursing, you have all of those care options on campus. Okay, so that's the way they're designed. And they do a really good job. I will say they really try hard to make sure that the folks who bought in get to stay on that campus for life. So I'm going to give them kudos that they really try to stand behind that. It's not a guarantee, but they make every effort to do that. The challenge that these communities have had is that if you're independent, but you really need to be an assisted, they can't make you go to assisted living, even if you need it. All right, so just bear that in mind. The other thing, their assisted livings may not be able to handle the level of care your loved one needs at the time that they go to assisted living. I'll give an example. None of the assisted livings at the buy-in communities will do a 2-person assist. They're always a 1-person. Once they go to 2-person, they want to move them over to the nursing home side. So just, that's one example, okay? There, and again, not picking on it, I'm just being honest. Whereas I have some assisted living communities that are non-buy-in that will do 2-person assist. I don't have a lot. I've got like 4, maybe 5 on a good day, but that's just a difference to be aware of. The other thing is when you go to these communities, they want both people to come in completely independent. So even if your loved one is still independent with Parkinson's, but maybe they have a shuffle walk, maybe they have something with their speech as a result that's impaired as a result of the Parkinson's. They are going to see it and hear it. And because they have a progressive disease and they're going to be able to see, yep, this is where they're at today, they're going to medically disqualify them. They have to, both people have to come in 100% independent with no symptoms, no signs of anything at the time that they are applying. You also have to be financially pre-qualified. They want to make sure that you can afford to live on that campus. So financially, medically qualified to be on their lifestyle communities. So it works for a lot of people. I have found recently that a lot of folks in the Parkinson's community have been declined in those communities because physical, noticeable impairments. So, and you know, it's disheartening because that's where a lot of times your friends go to live or your colleagues go to live there, and then you're disqualified, right? And so it makes it tough, but you got to remember they're lifestyle communities and they're private communities. So they have a niche and they're still a business. We have to remember they're still a business as well. So, you know, a lot of people don't join a golf country club if they're not golfers. I'm not saying they don't do it, but I'm just as a general rule, right? So you kind of got to bear that in mind. So I put that out there. So for a lot of our Parkinson's community, that option almost immediately comes off the table because when you're ready to start thinking about, gosh, let's go look at some communities and I've got friends at this community or that community. And then you go there and you go through the whole process and they're like, yeah, but you know, the salesperson may not tell you to their face, but they like to send a little letter in the mail. You know, it's non-confrontational. And that's just so disheartening, you know, and you're like, now what do I do? Where do I go? And so I like to share that. I mean, there again, if you guys are early in your journey and you're still very healthy, no outward symptoms, it may be an option for you. But if you are a little further progressed in your journey and there are outward symptoms, that's most likely not going to be an option for you. So I'm sorry to share that, but bear of bad news. And so a lot of times people are like, gosh, I wish I would have known that. I wouldn't have wasted 3 hours with this salesperson, only to have been like, you know, rubber stamp nope. So just know this is one of those things. Sometimes I have to share things that just aren't always as what we want to hear. Okay.
Wendy, can I interrupt you for 1 second? It'll give you a chance to get a drink. Um, I just want to tell everybody out there because I'm seeing some people put their hands up in the participant box and you're raising your hand. And I want to remind you, this is a webinar, so we actually can't see you all today, but I do see your hands up. What I want to remind you is that Wendy is going to answer all your questions at the end of her presentation, but if you don't mind typing in your question when you have it in your head in the Q&A bubble down at the bottom of the Zoom screen, then at least at the end, we will have questions that we can get right to answering. So can't help you when your hand is up though. Sorry about that.
Oh, that was good. I'm glad you said that. I didn't even know that. So there you go. All right, but we will answer questions. And if it's something where, you feel like it's going a little too long or something, my number's going to be here. April has my number. You guys can call me, right? Just call me. We can chat. I can come sit down. We can have a little cup of tea or coffee and, we'll just chat. So, and help you come figure out, just like I said in the beginning, everybody's situation, they're going to be at different places on this journey. And so it's not a one size fit all solution for everybody. But I do think it's important that, we're talking about some of these things because I know you guys also collaborate with one another. And so maybe we should just start a Parkinson's community of our own, okay? And we can get it perfectly the way we like it. All right, so assisted living versus memory care. So assisted living, you're still independent, believe it or not. You still get your own apartment. They're monthly rentals. So the average cost is about $4,800 to $5,800 for a private apartment. Obviously, if you want a bigger apartment and you have a spouse, you can just tack on about another $1,000 to $1,500 to that number. But it's still independent living. Y'all can still come and go, do whatever you want. But what they do is they specifically build a care plan around you. And then they're going to charge you for that care plan, right? So you may not need somebody for 4 hours. You may just need somebody to come in and help when you get up and moving in the morning, or help with showers, or help get you dressed so you can go about your day, whatever it is. They help manage your medicines, right? You're like, gosh, did I take the right meds, or did I forget to take this med, or whatever? Help manage medicines. And some of your medicines, as you know, are very specific because they're time release. So we've got to make sure that community under the med management protocol, that they're willing to take that on, right? Because it's like you guys have like 5-minute window, not an hour window with some of your meds. So we can't have that. So we've got to just make sure everybody's on the same page. And I always say singing from the same hymn book. So we're all saying and doing the same thing. So really, it's that care plan, and that care plan can ebb and flow with you. So for example, if you just were at the hospital and had something happen and you went to rehab, and you're coming back and you're still not really where you're going to be, they might beef up that care plan and just charge you a little bit more. It won't ebb and flow like every month. It's different. They try to get it pretty steady. Or another scenario is you come in and you're still doing quite a bit on your own, but let's just say 2 years from now, you need a lot more help. So pretty much after you get into an assisted living, they do a review in 30 days. And then if they start seeing significant changes, they'll sit down with you collectively, you, your loved ones, the doctors, everybody come up with a game plan to make sure that they're fitting that individualized care plan to you on this journey. So you're getting the help you need when you need it, nothing more, nothing less. I mentioned earlier, the all assisted livings are licensed to do a 2-person assist, but I've only got about a handful that will do it. And that's predominantly because of staffing. We don't have enough staff anywhere in the country, let alone Sarasota, to support the aging population, period. So not all communities, while they may be licensed to do it, they may not be able to do it. The other thing is that if you guys didn't know this, you're a bit of a fall risk with Parkinson's, right? So we got to be very mindful of that. So our assisted livings also have different levels of licensure. And really the difference is how much on-site medical care they can provide and whether or not they have a nurse on staff 24/7. So for me personally, when I meet with families who I know to be fall risks, whether Parkinson's or just aging or whatever, I look for communities that have a nurse on staff 24/7. The reason I do this is because if you're in a standard licensed community and you fall, they are required to call 911 and EMS is going to come. And they love to run you down to the hospital to be checked out, right? That's their job. Not picking on them, that is their job. However, if you're in a building that's licensed with a nurse in the building 24/7, that nurse can simply come look at you and discern, gosh, do we just need to pick Wendy up off the floor? Is she moving, normally? Does she have blood coming out of her head? They can make a determination and help get me back up without calling 911 and hopefully get me back to wherever I was going. That is a huge difference right there. If there was no other differences, that to me. The other thing on the 2-person assist. So the biggest risk, and well, besides falling, the second biggest risk that folks with Parkinson's have, as we know, your mobility is challenged. So you might be a 1-person assist for a really long time, meaning that one caregiver, whether it's a spouse, a loved one, or at a community-based care setting, can help you get in and out of chair, in and out of bed, in and out of a toilet. But because your muscles are declining in your legs and in your arms, you may need 2 people assisting you. Now, you can't be dead weight. You have to be participating in that transfer. But as long as 2 trained caregivers can help you get mobile, you don't even have to be able to walk. As long as they can get you up and you can turn your little booty around and set it right back down in a chair. So think if we're getting in and out of a shower, in and out of a toilet, can you stand? They call it stand, pivot, transfer. Okay. So if you can do that and you're participating in that, you are eligible to live in assisted living. When you are no longer able to do that, that is when we have to look to a nursing home. And I would say folks with Parkinson's, MS, those are the 2 diseases that, we see that happening. So I can't tell you, there's no single assisted living anywhere that I know of, anywhere in the country that could look you in the eye and say, nope, you can stay here to the end, and be honest with you, because if you're still just your muscles are giving out and they can't get you to stand, pivot, transfer with 2 people, they have to send you to a skilled setting. It's just the way it is. So I like to make you aware of that. Okay, memory care. So we do have communities that focus on memory care. And I want to touch just briefly because this has been coming up a lot as well. So Parkinson's is unique. It's a unique dementia. So because it's like, and this is the best visual aid I have for you. And I used this, I want to say a couple of weeks ago with a family I met with, the Parkinson's family. And I had to come up with a visual aid too, so that I could help people understand. They're like, well, there's some things my loved one does really well. And then there's other things it's like clueless, right? Like the processing disorder that goes with it, the ability to rationalize and reason. But then there's all these other things that we can talk about and do, and they're totally with it, right? Okay, so I want you to think of your brain, right? Your one big round head, okay? And we're going to split it in half. Half of your brain, I'm going to say, is 100% perfect and normal. 100% perfect and normal. The other half of your brain, okay, is not. It might have the ability to process, reason, and all of those things of maybe a 7 to 9-year-old. So what happens, let's just say you're 70, you've got a 70-year-old super healthy brain, and then you've got a 9-year-old brain on the other half of your head. And the 2 of them are at odds all the time because the 9-year-old's fighting to get space, right? Because they want to be heard. If you've ever been around a 9-year-old, they love to talk. They think sometimes, I have 3 kids, by the way, and they all, at that point, from about, I'm going to say probably, so somewhere around 9 to about 15, they knew everything. If you just ask them, maybe even 16. If you ask them, they were brilliant. So you've got that side of the brain, the non-healthy side, as I like to call it, fighting the healthy side. So there's going to be things like and it's really where I see it most, and April can jump in if she disagrees, but the processing, it's like a processing and a reasoning and rationalizing. So like the healthy part of your brain knows, no, I need help getting up out of the chair. And then the 9 knows, I can do it myself. Okay. So they're fighting each other. And so it's really challenging, I think, because it's not a normal dementia. It's not like somebody with Alzheimer's, to whereas the whole brain is deteriorating at the same time. With Parkinson's, the best visual I have is like part of it is healthy, part of it is not, and they're fighting each other. So I hope that helps you guys with the visual aid. And so it's really hard because memory care, I remember early on, I probably went to 30 communities. By the way, I used to tour like 2. I was the queen of once and done because I knew which community did what. But we went and we looked at about 30 memory cares because memory cares are all not created equal either. And they really just didn't fit somebody with Parkinson's and Parkinson's type of dementia stuff, because half of that brain is still good, the other half's not. So it was really challenging to find the right fit for that scenario. So now we've kind of figured it out a little bit better, and we know how to support that person on that journey. But it's a work in progress on that front, especially when it comes time for memory care. Now, if somebody's completely kind of the whole brain is starting to deteriorate, sadly, it's a little bit easier to accommodate that person than someone who's got half a healthy brain and half of a non-healthy brain. So that's all I'm going to say about memory care today. And then, as I shared early on, the last stop on the train is a nursing home. And this is really once somebody becomes more than a two-person assist. Maybe you have tubes and hoses, which typically we don't see a lot of with Parkinson's. It's really that more than two-person assist. That's really why we have to look to nursing home for someone with Parkinson's. Now, I went through these fairly quickly. There are some variables that I didn't touch base on, like if somebody's under a palliative care and this and that. So there's some exceptions to some of what I'm sharing with you. It's not an end-all be-all, but I'm giving you guys a general rule of thumb so that you understand some of these practices, okay? All right. Now then, I told you guys earlier that some of the funding strategies have 3 to 5 year look backs. And I said, your money has to last forever. So when we're talking about when should I start looking, I'm going to repeat what I said earlier so that everybody hears it again. Where you were 3 to 5 years ago, looking backwards, is going to be different than where you are 3 to 5 years from now. So the time to plan is today, because none of us plan on having a stroke. None of us plan on being in a car accident. None of us plan for something to happen to one of our adult children or grandkids and being called out of a town. And, oh my gosh, how do I support my loved one with Parkinson's? And what do I do? And I mean, there's just all these scenarios that happen every single day. And trust me, I'm in the thick of lots of them, trying to partner with families to help them get the right solutions. But your money has to be in place. So what I'm going to say, these are your funding strategies. It is not a long list, right? Private pay and savings. Okay. If you have a long-term care insurance policy, I cannot begin to tell you the number of people that I know who have it and they don't use it. They're waiting until it's really bad. Okay. I don't even know what that in my mind would need to look like, but you have somebody with a progressive disease, and most of those policies are use it or lose it. So every elder law attorney that I've met with, you use it. Use that money first. Every one of them. Don't believe me? I'll give you an elder law attorney to call. They'll tell you. Right? Financial advisor. Use that. It's an asset that you've been paying for that you need to use. And some of them have provisions around it. So we want to make sure it's in a place that if you really need it, it's activated to use it. And there again, if your goal is to be home and be as independent as possible, as long as possible, using the dollars from that policy can help you accomplish that. Because we don't know what 3 to 5 years from now is going to look like. But we do know what today looks like. Okay, VA aid and attendance. You guys maybe have heard about this program. It's got a 3-year look back. It's income, asset, need-based, and service-based. So, you had to have been serving during a wartime. They do have you had to be dishonorably discharged. If you were a veteran and you were married to a veteran, there's some benefits for the spouse of a veteran. So there's some qualifiers, but they're going to look at your money the last 3 years. Medicaid's really strict with their income and asset requirements. They've got a 5-year look back. So you can't give it away. You just can't start retitling assets. If you're married, there's some things you can do to kind of negate some of that and kind of divert stuff and to be able to access those dollars. So there's some strategies around that. But these things, they're wanting to look what you did with your money. So, if you're thinking, gosh, I can't afford it, but I was a veteran who served during a wartime, Vietnam, for example, we're seeing a lot more Vietnam folks come into play, and by the way, when you apply to the VA and Medicaid, these are government programs. So even if you meet all their criteria today, you're not getting the money for another year and a half at best. Okay. So it's, you got to be prepared well before you need it, and not at some point in the future. A lot of people, there's some companies, national companies out there that do some bridge loans. So if you were in a crisis, but it still takes about 3 to 4 weeks to get the funding. Life insurance policies that if, there's a statistic out there, I want to say it's like 80 something percent, 83 or 84% of people will stop paying on life insurance when they start paying for care. But there's some insurance companies that will buy you out of those policies. You're not going to get face value or whatever, but pending the amount of your policy, it might buy you a little bit of time. It might buy you 2 or 3 months of money to augment your income until other monies become available, like selling a house or something, right? So it might just be enough to help you during that interim. But there again, that money takes a few weeks to get as well. None of this is instantaneous. So I want you guys to pay attention. Notice that I did not say reverse mortgage. The reality is if you just leveraged out, because, and I'm going to back up. Most people, a lot of people, not everybody, but a lot of people, their real asset that they have is their home. They paid cash for their home. So they've got this, they know if they sell their home, they can get cash, right? So then they want to take money out on their house so they can pay for care. Well, when I just told you how much the care cost, how much time are you going to be able to buy yourself by taking that money? And then what happens when you go through all that money? Then what happens to the home, right? So most likely reverse mortgage is not going to allow you to stay in your home. I mean, if you start dropping $100,000 a year in care, now remember, this money's got to last for 2 people if you're married or you have a significant other. So let's just say you sell your house and you guys are dropping $100,000 a year for care. You've got that, and you sell your house for $500,000. You've got 5 years worth of money before you're just on whatever your monthly income is. So there's some strategies there to think about too. You've always got to be thinking 3, 4, 5 steps ahead of where you are today so that you're in that position that when you need to tap into it, you truly are ready. So I'm going to leave it at that for now. I'm sure we'll have lots of questions on that as we go along. Okay, and here is just me highlighting some of the costs. So I would say if you have a camera, I'll leave this up for a few minutes just to give you some averages, kind of what we talked about. Just so if you guys want to do a screenshot of that, take a photo with your camera, whatever. And so you guys can kind of see some of those dollars. So, but I need to change. The thing is, I just typed this up and I've got 3-hour minimums. It's 4-hour minimums. Sorry. All right, that's it. So I've got my office number and my personal cell number here. You guys are welcome to call those numbers. Please don't do it after 10 o'clock. I won't answer and I don't turn on my phone until about 7 in the morning. So just know if it's crisis, 911. All right. April, so I'm going to let you transition. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, that was great. Excellent information. Wow. I feel like, my head could explode with how much information you just gave us. So again, those of you watching, we are recording this and it will live on our YouTube channel, the Neuro Challenge YouTube channel. By next month, we'll have it up there. So like if you missed anything, you'll get to review all this information and the slides when you can see the recording. But hey, there were a lot of great takeaways. I think Wendy did a great job explaining all of the different levels of care because so many of you ask us things like, well, how do you know what level to go in at? And maybe, Wendy, you do need to just address one little thing because you're talking about 2-person assist in assisted living, right?
Yes.
And, who makes that call?
Right.
Who says if you're a 1-person or a 2-person?
Right. That's a great question. So when you are looking to potentially go to an assisted living, your doctor fills out a form based upon your care needs right then. It's called an 1823. So that's always the first thing. Your doctor says, hey, here are the care needs, like if it's for me, for Wendy. Then they're going to have their nurse assess, right? Because doctors see you for 5 minutes? Okay, maybe some of you have concierge docs or whatever. But I mean, as a general rule of thumb, we're kind of in and out with our doctor. So the doctor fills out a form identifying your care needs. The nurse at the community does an assessment. And based upon that, they develop that care plan. And that's going to determine are you the 1-person or 2-person, right? It's always about coming up with a care plan, though. Just like you may be a 1-person at home, but your poor spouse is killing their backs or whatever. It's about what do you need to best support you so you stay safe. And then what they will do is then reassess after you live in an assisted living for 30 days. They're going to reassess because everybody's going to get in a new rhythm and a new groove and see is that 1 or 2 person assist. So then once you're living there, they too, much like your loved ones, are going to see things progressing, and is it becoming more challenging, and is it requiring 2 people? Like, if Susie caregiver can't help you get out of bed, she's having to call another caregiver every time they come in to assist you. We just see things kind of progressing on that pathway.
Right. Okay, that's a very good point. I'm going to jump into the question and answer box, the Q&A box down here, but I do still have some other takeaways I want to bring up. But let's see what other people are asking. And also out there in the audience, go ahead and drop your questions into the box so that we can get to them. All right. Somebody says, I am a long-term care ombudsman. Okay, great. I recognize you, Mark, your name. Hi, from up there in the mid-state. Wendy said you can't stay in an ALF until the end. We get people in the hospice program, and that allows the ALF to keep you till the end. Could you expand, Wendy?
Yep. If you remember, Mark, I shared toward the end that I was just giving the generalizations and I didn't get into some of the exceptions to that, such as hospice. So there again, if someone's under some sort of a hospice care, and I'm careful with that word because a lot of times people hear the word hospice and they immediately think end of life. So I like to use the word palliative care a little bit more than the word hospice, because hospice is scary, Mark, and you may know that as an ombudsman. And the reason is if someone's under this care, so guys, we have a wonderful, wonderful benefit in your insurance. And I think our assisted livings and a lot of our communities are really, really good at leveraging this resource through our local hospice group, so that if folks are needing more care, right, or they're bed bound, so to speak. So if you're more than a 2-person assist and you're still alert, going well, everything great, yes, you have to go to nursing home. But if you're under palliative care and you're more than a 2-person assist, then that can be arranged through hospice services, and they can set you up with like Hoyer lift and sliding board, things that assisted livings are not allowed to use unless you are under hospice care. So there are other tools that will become available, but the assisted living still have to have the staff to be able to operate that, and the staff has to be trained to be able to operate that.
Mm-hmm.
Does that help, okay, Mark? Am I going down the path you wanted to?
Good point. Wendy, earlier you mentioned that there are 126 or so companies. Were you talking about home health agencies? Were you talking about long-term care communities? Which one was that?
126 private duty companies. And then we have about 58 Medicare home health companies. Mm-hmm. Okay, so there's 2 different. So remember, in-home care, private duty, private pay, home health, Medicare benefit. And there's about 58 of those companies. And there again, that's something through insurance your doctor writes an order for.
Great. And really good takeaway that you reminded people the difference between what an HHA is and a CNA, so home health aide versus certified nursing assistant. And you talked a little bit about, the difference and that, one is hands-on, one is hands-off. There's also companions thrown in there. So I'm really glad you brought that up today, because I think a lot of people will just say, healthcare, home health, and they just say that, but they don't understand that certain ones do certain things, and you need to be sure you're getting the right type of care in your home. And it all costs differently too.
It does. That's a really good point. So
yeah. And another great takeaway when you touch upon how to pay for this kind of care, 3 to 5 year look back, depending on the scenario. What an important, very, very important factor to keep in mind, because planning for today, right, is going to affect you in 3 to 5 years if they have a look back. So when you're thinking about your finances and getting those things in order and making sure you can afford what you're going to be deciding upon in the future, you've got to start today. So really good point to bring up. Thank you. Let's jump into the Q&A bubble again here. Let's see what we have. Okay. What is a typical number of caretakers per patient shared in an assisted living facility?
So great question. So I will tell you that they are required to staff to acuity. So I want you guys to put on your business hat for a minute. All right. So let's just say that somebody's going to help me with bathing, grooming, dressing, and they're going to help April with bathing and grooming, dressing. They can come in and they're in and out with me in an hour. but they go to help April, poor April. It takes them 2 hours with April. Okay. So right there, just in that, it's 3 hours of time. So, and so let's just say they do that. That's under our care plan. And they do that with every single resident who has with a care plan. And then you add up all of those time increments throughout the day. And most people work an 8-hour shift, right? So what they're going to do is they're going to staff to the acuity needs for those residents living in the building. Now then, I'm going to further qualify it. Most people at nighttime, because I hear this all the time, oh, well, there's nobody around at nighttime. Well, there are. Otherwise, they would be reported on the ACA website. But they don't need as many people because the care plan at night. So at nighttime, if I'm sleeping, they just may have to help me to the bathroom, which is 10 minutes. And they help April to the bathroom. It's another 10 minutes. So we add up those increments of time to get an 8-hour shift. And it's not going to be as many maybe at nighttime as what we have during the day when everybody's getting up, getting out of bed, getting showered. You're using the bathroom more because you're eating and drinking more, all of those other tasks. Physical therapy takes place during the day, activities takes place during the day. All these things happen at the day, not at 2 a.m. in the morning, right? Hopefully. So they staff to acuity. I will tell you the averages that I see. And there again, this is just an average. No, don't hold me to it. It's about 1 to 15 on average. 1 to 15, maybe 16. So if you have a really independent assisted living, that's not to say they don't take on high care needs, but the acuity of their residents is much higher than, some of the others. They're staffing maybe 1 to 18. Because there again, it's about time slots and how much time based upon those individualized care plans that it takes to care for someone.
Yeah, great answer. All right,
Wendy,
let's see
this is Diane. I have two things. First, I just want to confirm your cell phone number because there's an extra digit on the slide.
Oh.
So I want to make sure that we're giving out the correct information.
387. It's 804-387-7633. Good catch, Diane. I'm going to fix that. Great.
And then the other, I get asked a lot about people have difficulty initiating their long-term care plans,
yep.
And each policy is different and all of that. Can you speak to that a little bit about how to get those rolling for people to start taking advantage of their coverage?
Yes. So the first thing is you have to actually pull it out of the drawer and take a look at it. Let's start there. I mean, okay. I find that most people, and I used to sit in these seminars with elder law attorneys that were specific to long-term care, and folks would be like, well, I don't know, I got this back in the 70s, and they've never pulled it out. So if you pull it out, there's a benefits page within there, and it kind of highlights what the benefits are. So most all of them you call, and I just say less is more. Remember, they're an insurance company and you want them to pay and you're entitled to those payments, but they're going to be a little cautious before they just start writing checks, okay? So typically, I always just review the policy itself, and then I give them a call, and I would just simply recommend that you guys say, how do we activate the policy for my loved one? And there's usually a form that gets filled out by a physician that has to be turned into them. So there's going to be some paperwork, right? And they may even have somebody that's going to come out and like a nurse that they've contracted with or whatever that's going to come out, and they're going to do like a little assessment to make sure that form filled out by the doctors, once again, what it says it is. And then once that happens, and there's different provisions, some of them have, some of the policies are written that you have to private pay for like 30, 60, or 90 days before the policy kicks in. So there again, just no matter what, find out what you need to do so that every policy is different. So keep receipts. So if you've been paying for private duty care, some of them say you have to have you have to have continuous care. Some of them will let you have like maybe Monday, Wednesday, Friday care, and that still qualifies. But what they're looking for is that you're paying for 30, 60, 90 days. And so you want to know if it's intermittent, is it continuous, and kind of get a good understanding of how that works so that you can activate it and tap into it. And then what happens once you do get it activated, basically you're going to pay for the care, submit the receipt, and then that company reimburses you. So you're always kind of working a month in arrears with that. But I will tell you, our private duty companies and our assisted living and memory cares, they're really good that once you kind of get it activated about partnering with you, some of them will even submit the bills directly to your long-term care insurance policy. So it's kind of automatic. But it is a bit of a rigmarole, right? You're asking them to pay thousands upon thousands of dollars but it's just paperwork, right? So if we can just take it in little baby steps and do one thing at a time, make the phone call, get the form that needs to be filled out by a doctor to kind of get that going, and then understanding the terms of the policy.
Mm-hmm. Good point. Wendy, could you put the screen back up, the slide that has the costs, the numbers, for somebody who just wants to take a picture? And then
just remember that's 4-hour minimums. That's the other one I found. So 4-hour minimums.
Right. Okay. And then somebody's asking, and this might go back to the original question you talked about, like with the acuity of care in the long-term care. What if you need to go to the bathroom? How long do you actually have to wait? Yeah. This is talking about in long-term.
Like in a nursing home or assisted living?
He didn't say, but I'm assuming either one. Like, how long would you have to?
So I'm going to give you. So most assisted livings will tell you a 3 to 5 minute wait. Most assisted livings, but I need people to be realistic, right? Because if somebody in the room next to you just had an accident, or maybe they fell, or there's an emergency in another part of the building, it's going to take the staff that would normally come to you, and they're going to address the immediate emergency for whatever's happening. So that could delay you, right? So I want people to be realistic, but on average, assisted livings, I think every assisted living is quoting somewhere between 3 to 5 minutes. They're not perfect. They are people, and things happen. They can only go but so fast. I gave a really good example where somebody can help me and it takes an hour, and they go in to help poor April and it takes them 2 hours to do the same exact thing. It could boil down to the bathroom. They come in to help me. They're like, oh, Wendy's quick. Because, oh no, not April again. It's going to take us 30 minutes to get, So, we just got to.
I'm just a mess.
That poor April, she's a mess. So, that's an example. I will tell you. So that's my assisted living answer. Okay. I'm going to talk about nursing homes. Nursing homes are skilled nursing facilities. They are medical facilities. All right. Their job is to tend to people medically first, and then everybody else kind of second. It's the way they're designed. Even if you live there, they're still a skilled nursing facility. They are staffed with skilled nurses, whether you need them or not. Most people living in nursing homes do not have skilled care needs. They could be served very well on assisted living if they had the financial resources, meaning they just needed help with bathing, grooming, dressing, toileting, transferring, medicines, those sorts of things. But if they had no other option, they had to go skilled nursing. Skilled nursing as a general, this is general, gang, general. More than 2-person assist, tubes and hoses coming out of you, you're going skilled nursing, right? Just as a general rule of thumb. We've only got one place in Sarasota County that will assist with a feeding tube. One. So other than that, you got to go skilled nursing. So, it's very, just because they're licensed to do it doesn't mean they have to take it on. So that's one example of many.
Very good point. Mark has this to say, and I think he wants you to address this. Tell the married couples to investigate right of refusal option when they look for Medicaid and private pay for long-term care. Elder attorneys and Medicaid specialists know about this option. It's unique to Florida and 4 other states. I don't know if you need to expand on that, Wendy, with your knowledge.
Yeah, so typically, Mark, that's a good point. So I'm not an attorney, and I'm not going to play one on TV or on a webinar. I typically, 99% of my families, we do refer to local elder law attorneys, just so you know that. And so this is kind of where I did that high level overview, and I was talking about Medicaid, that there's some things strategically that folks can do on paper to where, like if you're married, basically what he's referring to. So me and my husband, or you're married, and you need Medicaid as part of your funding strategy, there are ways to divert those assets to the well spouse, right? And so that their loved one can go on Medicaid now, but then the well spouse is subject to a 5-year look back. So there again, it's all about strategy and how to put things on paper so that we can tap into those resources to help people have the care that they need when they need it. I will tell you, and he's right, we are one of a handful of states. I think there's 6 states. Is that what he just said? 6? I think it's 6 states that we have Medicaid dollars that we for in-home care. We have Medicaid dollars for assisted living, whereas most states only have dollars once you're completely out of funds and you go to a nursing home. So we are very fortunate. I'm not saying Florida's perfect, but I think we do a lot of things really well here in our state. And do I think we could reassess those numbers? I would love to go to Tallahassee and help work on a project to do that. So because at one point I put together like a 20-page document and how I could just fix our system for seniors. It'd be awesome. Yeah.
Right. Good one. Okay. What about people with Parkinson's who experience swallowing disorders as the disease progresses? And let's say they're living in an assisted living facility and they need thickened liquids or they need to have a mechanically soft diet. Is the assisted living going to have to meet their needs, or do they need to move to nursing for that?
Nope. If they are still swallowing, they will absolutely do thickened liquids. They're going to be worried. So assisted living is a collaborative care environment. And what that means, it's you and your loved one, right? Their care team and your doctors. And it's kind of like a three-legged stool. And you guys work together as a team and on this journey of ebb and flow on any given day. So if the doctor is saying, hey, we need thickened liquids, we need soft mechanical, absolutely they can do that. Will there come a time when that may be, when you go to feeding tube, I already shared, we've only got one assisted living in Sarasota County that's actually doing a feeding tube. So as long as, they can meet that requirement there, they will absolutely do that. I don't know any assisted living that won't do that, quite honestly.
Great. All right. Well, listen, this has been a very educational webinar today. Lots and lots of questions were answered. I don't see any others in the Q&A bubble, but if you do follow up, if you do discover you have a question, please email me, or you can, contact Wendy directly, and that way you can get your answers. Wendy, thank you so much. What a great webinar. What some really good information. I love how you were able to empower the people listening, really to make these choices on their own. It wasn't you telling them what to think and what to do, but you certainly gave all the options and explained everything. And that's what education is all about. So I really appreciate you today. And thank you for your time.
All right. Bye, guys. And if you guys need anything, call me. Bye.